Hey there. Welcome to the Gyro Step Podcast Network Milwaukee Bucks season preview podcast. It's here. We've gone through the other 29 teams to share a quick analysis and over-under predictions. We're going to do the same about the Milwaukee Bucks, although obviously have a much deeper conversation to go along with said predictions. I'm Ty Windisch, one of the hosts of the Gyro Step, joined as always by the very golden ratio friendly Rohan Katti, plus Jordan Treske and Adam McGee of the Win in 6 podcast. Fellas, for the last time before the 22-23 NBA season, how's it going?
You scared me, Ty. I was like, are you dropping some news on me for the last time?
No, just
oh my goodness.
Last time we're all going to be on a pod before the season starts.
I know. I had a mini heart attack. I was like, no, I can't get rid of my GSPN homies.
That's nice.
Jordan, you and I are not golden ratioed. I don't know if you noticed that.
Neither am I.
I don't even know what these words mean.
We'll get to it.
We'll
get to the golden ratio later when we talk about Bucks coaching. But I think we've decided the best way to do this. So we've done over-unders for every team. We're going to do our predictions or takes, in Jordan's case, on the Bucks over-under as well. We pulled this a couple days ago. The line may have shrunk a little bit since then with recent news we'll get into on the injury front for Milwaukee. However, we are going with a line of 53. Adam, as you did the calcs beforehand to be prepared to speak to this without needing to say judge by the over-under, just pure data, science. Would you like to kick us off on this episode?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Do I feel good about kicking us off? No. Do I feel good about what I'm going to say? Not really, although not by a long way. So when we went through all these over-unders and we did our East and West previews, at that time, the Milwaukee Bucks line sat at 53 wins. And that is exactly what I had the Bucks to come in at, was 53 wins. They are the team that I have for top of the Eastern Conference. Do I feel quite as good about that now as I did a few days ago? Not necessarily. Pat Connaughton being out a few weeks on top of the other injuries they're dealing with to start the season makes wing depth a real concern. And I don't put any stock in preseason. I was going to say I don't put a lot, but I don't put any stock in preseason. But off a preseason where obviously they didn't win a game and then coming into the season down a number of guys, maybe it'll be tough or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just be like, oh, Giannis is the best player in the world, and Drew's still there, and Brooke is there, and they've got Bobby to give them some minutes, so he might get a better version of Grayson, and Wes Matthews can give quality minutes still. And sure, beyond that, we're going to have some questions, but there is still a really strong starting lineup and a couple of core contributors beyond that. Into Javon Carter, certainly we're going to see a lot of George Hill to start the season, whether it continues that way further down the line. I guess that start of the season will decide a lot on that front. It's going to be kind of trial by fire for him. Is he going to bounce back or is he officially done? But yeah, in coming into this exercise and where I'm at with the Bucks overall, I don't think it's going to be a really gaudy win total that leads the East this year. I think the Bucks are going to have a better regular season. I think some things should click just a little bit better than they did last year. Going with what Rohan, I believe, was very adamant towards the back end of last year that we're going to get a better version of Grayson Allen and he's going to mesh better with the Bucks this season. Hoping that factors into it. But yeah, for me, I was going with the push. Do I feel great about that now? If we were doing it fresh, I might shave a game or two off, but I see the Bucks being 50 plus wins and being right in the mix at the top of the East.
I mean, it's par for the course for the Bucks to win 50 games under Mike Budenholzer. They've had a 50 win pace every single one of his seasons. So even though the line is 53, I'm taking the slight under and I'm saying 52 wins. I'm sure we're going to get into it. A lot of what you're saying, Adam, rings true for me as well. Injury concerns are a little concerning, obviously. I just said they're injury concerns, but it's a little troubling. Like, how is this roster going to sort of fit together? I feel like they're going to go through some pains maybe a little early on in the season, but if there's a time to do it, it's early on. And then as they get their guys back and get stronger, they'll continue to get better. Can we expect another 60-win season from this team? Probably not. They're going to be very, very good? One of the top seeds in the East, 50-plus wins? I think so. He's
So
warming up the takes.
I went into this exercise thinking 53 is kind of like the perfect number for them. Obviously, as Rohan mentioned, they've had 50-win seasons or 50-win pace every year that Bud has been in Milwaukee. So it's earned. It's definitely earned. At the time that we were doing the initial over-unders, I was thinking, well, there has been a lot of clarity on Khris Middleton's timeline, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. Like, that's kind of, okay, don't really know that. Joe Ingles kind of getting pushed back, even though I think January felt very optimistic when he was interviewed over the summer. Forget how or when that happened.
I think even it was December at one point. It was
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was December or whispers or whatever. From the horse's mouth, I should say. But I was like, okay, so you're missing like wing depth. Then it's just like a matter of we know where this team is at. It's not just Khris is obviously a huge ingredient to what they're putting together, and I did not watch any of the preseason. I'm just admitting this right now. But it wasn't like I was like, hey, it's like, oh, you lost every game? Okay, whatever. It's not a big deal. But it's just a matter of, okay, you're going to give the young guys opportunity early in the season, especially with Khris being out. On top of that, Joe Ingles being out. Then the news came in about Pat being out for 3 weeks. Wes is dealing with something that they are hoping to be cleared up by the season opener. But again, you're kind of wanting to pace Wes over the course of the season. So it's just a lot of like, for like the greatest strength of their roster, it's already being tested a lot going into this year. And you're going to see a lot of Marjan, you're going to see a lot of War, you're going to see a lot of two-guard lineups, whether it's some machination of Drew and George, or is it Drew and Javon, George and Javon, Grayson out. Like, it's a lot of those like things of like, okay, there's some good things to be had in terms of like you want to see like the best start that they have, but it's also like we've gone through this story before. You want to see the Bucks pace themselves and hit their final, true form when it's closer to the end of the season / playoffs. So, with all that in mind, I initially went under, and I feel even more confirmed by going under. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think it's just a matter of circumstances. I'd be surprised if their 50-win season streak is in true jeopardy this year. But I think it's just kind of, it's not to the degree of Brook last year. Certainly not. I mean, if it is, God, we're in for another strange ride. But
I might have to retire.
Yeah. I think they're going to be very cautious with Khris. And the good thing about his injury is that I think he even said it himself in some things I was reading before we started recording. He is still staying in shape. It's not like he's, sitting on the bench or sitting on his couch or anything like that. He's able to keep maintaining his fitness, and just kind of when he does make his return, it's going to be pretty seamless in that way. But I do think that they're going to be very cautious with not just Khris, obviously Ingles. It's just they've gone through it. They've gone through a lot of long playoff runs too. This is the 5th year with Bud, and so I mean, you're talking about at least at least runs that have gone to the second round or longer every year. So that's a lot of basketball, even plus on top of just how the world has been for the last 2.5, 3 years. So I think this is just part of the plan this year. And yeah, is it going to be frustrating at times? Probably. This is Bucks basketball. But it has the chances of being far worth it in the end.
Do you guys know how many Bucks missed less than 15 games last season?
Wait.
not counting, obviously, guys who came in late. Like, over the course of the season, how many of the guys on the team missed less than 15 games?
I was looking at some of the in-street close numbers earlier, and honestly, I think it is approaching a larger conversation that should be had. The Bucks' injury track record has been really bad for a long time. They were like 23rd in the league, so I'm going to go higher than that. 15 games? Is that what you're
missed less than 15 games.
Oh, missed less.
So how many guys were around the whole season and missed less than 15 games last season for the Bucks?
3. Final answer.
I'll go 2.
So is this that they played 67 or more?
Yes.
As opposed to... Oh, then it's, I'll say 3.
1. 6. It would be 68 or more.
Is it Pat?
Bobby Portis. No. Bobby Portis played 72. Nobody else played more than 68. Giannis and Drew both missed 15. Khris missed 16. Grayson did as well. Pat missed 17. Obviously, Brooke plays 13 total games. Give me the over. I think despite the injury issues, there's still a world where they are actually healthier and have more cohesion this year. I think they have more cohesion than really any team in the league, with the Celtics and Warriors kind of imploding, and that's valuable, even if it's not everything. The last several regular seasons, we have seen John Horst have to make these midseason moves because they're a player short or someone's just clearly not working, whether it was number 37 and Rodney Hood or DJ Augustine or whatever else. The Bucks are
Big Rod.
I don't. The Bucks are entering this season with a group of players they know and trust, and they've harped on how important that is all year. I think the rotation is clearer than it's ever been to start a season, even if there's some things to be ironed out. And they're going to be thin early, but there's options there that they can give a chance to. So I think it'll look like they're trailing, maybe a little behind it early, but I do think this team is set up, as you guys mentioned. Give Khris that time he needs. Make sure he's right before he comes back. But I think when Khris is inserted back in the lineup, I think the Bucks are going to roll like we saw 2 years ago, where they just dominate teams. And there are a lot of good teams in the East, but I think none are better than the Bucks. And honestly, I think this team kind of thrives when, not that no one's high on them, but I just feel like no one kind of cares right now. I shared this on Twitter earlier today. The Athletics survey of like all the people or whatever who work there. What player are you most excited about this season? 0 votes for any Bucks. You know, they're picked to win the East or whatever. That's fine. But I don't think anyone cares that much. I feel like the spotlight is off. The pressure is not really that high. They're just kind of there, and everyone will check in with them in March. I think they're built for this. Give me the over. I think they win just over because 53 is a high line. But, I mean, they're a great team. They have the best player in the world, and they have a roster that they feel stronger about than any in the Giannis era, really.
I actually think they've been picked to win by more people this year than ever before. But I think to your point,
it's honestly scary.
It's a reflection of just, I guess, the state of NBA media.
Yeah,
they're not messy. They're not dramatic, so people aren't interested.
Everyone just says, they're
not about who's the best basketball
Let's move on.
And to some extent, I get that if you're trying to mine content out of it and you're covering the whole NBA. Because my view is kind of largely, if the Bucks stay healthy, I think the Bucks win a championship. And there's multiple levels to that. One is how healthy you are throughout the season. And then 2, as we know all too well from last season, it's if you're going to get injuries, when are you going to get them? Can you be healthy at the right time? But yeah, I think that's fair. I'm definitely closer to that level of optimism. Like I'm saying that even Jordan, with his sobering thoughts, going with the under, says he doesn't think the 50 win mark is in danger. So we all think the baseline for this team is really, really high in spite of starting the season with some challenges. Part of the reason why I did stick, and I wasn't like, I'm just going to take an excuse and drop to an under here. 7 of the first 9 games are at home. And that's really going to do this team a lot of favors as they work their way towards Khris and Pat being back. And honestly, like, not the weakest schedule, not the strongest schedule either. Like, with home games, if they start pretty well, if they do find something, even if that just means Giannis starts the season really well, they could actually get ahead of things rather than fall behind things early on. I think it's certainly possible with the way their schedule breaks, and that's something that is pretty nice for them. Even like when you look at it kind of extended out after the home stretch, it takes a while before it gets to something that's really daunting. Like I think they'll be able to navigate through the most troubling early spell for injuries against not the most dangerous of opposition, and that's something that I think the Bucks will be grateful for. And if they can take advantage of that, well then, yeah, anything's possible from there.
2 more quick availability stats that I think are important to the Bucks over. And again, I would not necessarily bet this, but forced to make a call, I am going over. The number of games with all 3 of Khris, Giannis, and Jrue Holiday, 47 out of 82. And the amount of games with those 3 and Brook Lopez, 9 of 82. And despite this, they finished, 3rd in the East and win 51 last season. So I think if you get, even if these stars sit games because of rest or whatever, if they play 60 games together, I don't think it's that wild to think they could eke out 3 more wins than last season when they were all in and out of the lineup one after another all the time. Like I almost think in looking at Chris's status and of course Ingles, who, whatever. At this point, honestly, and we can have a conversation, I'm just like pushing back anything for Ingles. Like I don't expect him to do anything this year, and I think that's how it kind of should be, and there shouldn't be that much expectation. It almost feels like found money if they get a playoff player.
He's not on the team until he's on the team, sort of thing.
Exactly. But I think there's just an underrating happening, or kind of a glossing over of how brutal last year was for them with the injuries and the no off season and everything, just because they still ended up, getting the 50 wins as we talked about. But, if Khris comes back in a month and Khris, Jrue, and Giannis play a bunch together, I just think they're going to kill teams as they typically do.
It'd be nice to go back to a dominant Bucks regular season. We obviously didn't see that last year, but like you mentioned, Ty, 2 years ago, like before everything shut down, they were, what were they, 53-9 or something ridiculous?
They ended up
56
and 17.
Yeah. So it was something wild. Like they eclipsed the 50 win mark before everything shut down.
They were on pace for a hair under 63 wins that season. It would have been the best season in Bucks history, is what they were on pace for. Regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even whatever it was, as I will never let go, they started to stumble just before COVID kicked in too. Like I think they lost.
Giannis was hurt.
Three of their last
Giannis
4.
got hurt.
Giannis got hurt, and he actually got to. We thought the bubble might be almost nice because it gave Giannis so much time to rehab. Ended up not being the case, and then Giannis gets hurt again. But yeah,
listen,
it was.
We never need to talk about the bubble again.
True.
We got the other side of it. Everything was all right.
But my general point is, this team is capable, this core is capable of just stringing together wins on wins and just absolutely crushing teams in the regular season. And last year, they didn't have a true opportunity to do that. I might be sort of getting convinced out of my underpick here. But unfortunately, the reason that we mentioned that Adam, you had to push me and Jordan at an under, injuries. We've talked about it a little bit. We haven't addressed it specifically. There was a report that Pat Connaughton, the Bucks, announced that he would miss at least 3 weeks with a hamstring injury, which is
calf injury.
Calf injury.
Calf strain, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little concern.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is part of this is what happens though. Like I mean, it's not the Brook thing last year was a very extreme example, but like it just kind of adds up. Like the little okay, you're gonna have guys that are gonna miss time. You have muscle injuries. You're gonna have just the wear and tear of the last. It's not just 1 year. It's the last. It's post or not post, but like since COVID. The fact that every Bucks player has been like, we finally had a real off season to get right and all this stuff. And it's like, and even then, like Giannis is playing Eurobasket, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Thanasis, missing probably someone else too.
Thanasis didn't do that much playing, but point taken.
But it's there's
he was getting ready for what he does for the Bucks.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
But it's part of the game, and they have an older roster.
Yes.
That is is inescapable. And it probably got even older with getting a guy like Ingles, who again, perfect addition for what they have and what they need. And I can only think of Rohan freaking out when we were doing our free agency, our free agency reaction show, or whatever that was. But it was just like, okay, this is like, you gotta have them get right, and maybe it pans out. It's the ultimate like boomer bust kind of addition. But again, this is just an older team, and I don't know. Like, I understand where you guys are coming from with like, they have proven to be, blitzing teams all throughout the regular season. I just don't think, I don't think that's their approach anymore. And two, I don't necessarily think that is the best thing for where their roster is.
I think it might be closer to their approach this season. They're never going to go all out like they did in the 60-win season, where honestly, no problems with that. It was the right thing to do at that time, because that was the moment where this Bucks team realized, oh, we can be the best team in the world. We can be the most dominant team in this league. I don't think you win a championship without some of the confidence that was built up there, even if it didn't work out at that point, and it took some time beyond that. I think you've got to, when you think about this, you got to think about who leads the team and who dictates what the Bucks are going to be, and it's Giannis. And they came back from winning a championship. They had not their most convincing regular season. We can absolutely and kind of justifiably point to the injuries. That's a big part, Brooke in particular, why that happens. But to go from that and then go in and they get knocked off in the second round of the playoffs, again, we can point to injuries. I just think all of that combined, though, for someone like Giannis is going to light a fire. I think we're going to see sounds ridiculous to say, I think we're going to see a big Giannis season, because every Giannis season is a big Giannis season. But I do think the way he kind of imposes himself on games and just drags the Bucks along with him could be up another level this year. I think they might have a little bit more motivation than coming off a championship and the shortest off season ever. I do think this regular season could be different, and they may just view it as, oh, there's all these ascending powers in the East. The Celtics got one over on us last year. Well, let's go back out there and remind everyone whose conference this is. And
Pacers,
I wouldn't be shocked to see. I'd be shocked to see anything from the Pacers, but I wouldn't be shocked to see the Bucks kind of put their foot down. And then to go to the injury, I'm only concerned about it in the short term because it's not an area of strength for the Bucks, and we know how important Pat is. But it's a very different place, scar tissue and all that we have of any Bucks injury, which I guess is part of what makes Rohan immediately feel like it's a little concerning. Someone's injured. They're telling us someone's injured, but what are they telling us?
They've been better about it since Brooke.
And I wonder, did something get through from somewhere that maybe we should be a bit more transparent? I wonder, even did Adam Silver have some words? Because that stuff is very important for betting. You can't just not have any of that information available. Some sort of, doesn't have to be nailed down, but some sort of vague update is important. I think this is different. This is not an aging big with a back injury that requires surgery. At least it's not something that requires surgery right now. And likewise with Khris, it feels like from everything that anyone has said, whether it's like things you hear Zach Lowe say here or there, I get the feeling Khris is really, really close, and they're just not going to do anything silly here. They want to really take their time and pace him, because there is nothing to gain by being like, oh yeah, he could go opening night, or he could go within the first week of the season, and then he has a recurrence and you're in a really bad spot. So I don't really have an issue with either of that. There could be some of that with Pat too. It's like, oh, he's got an injury coming into the season. Well, let's make sure we clear it up completely and we don't have him starting the season playing on an injury that he's going to have to carry all the way through to potentially June.
I always think when we have these conversations about like PJ Tucker playing for a garbage Rockets team and he gets to Milwaukee and they're immediately like, yeah, you're not going to play for like 3 weeks, dude. Like, you're hurt. Like, I just think the Bucks have a much less tolerance for these sorts of injuries than a lot of other teams, at least some other teams, at least the Rockets, right? That we we can say beyond a doubt. I also think the idea that they don't, they're not going to blitz teams kind of just comes from how limited they've been personnel-wise. I don't have the season number because NBA Stats is like kind of horrific now, and they keep making it worse for some reason.
I don't know what they keep doing.
I don't know.
It gets worse every time.
Is it worse this season? I haven't looked at it yet this season.
Yeah, it's not been great. But so this is from March 30th after 43 games with Khris, Giannis, and Jrue all playing. So at that time, they were 33-9, which is a 64 win pace. They had a plus 10.4 net rating, which would have been first. 117.9 offensive rating, which would have been first. 107.5 defensive rating, which would have been fourth. So in about half a year's worth of games, when they had those three guys, they did still blitz teams, even if they're not playing a ton or going balls to the wall necessarily. I just think they're just really good. And it's unfortunate because we just haven't seen it, right? Like we saw that was kind of fits and starts, especially with Khris and Jrue dealing with some stuff earlier in the season, and then obviously Khris in the playoffs. But it's just, I think it's going to be, I think I'm even going to take more joy in when those three are playing together than before, just because as we all know, and I don't know if we have to get into that on this particular podcast, but we are reaching, and soon in the next couple years, an inflection point with this core as the big three. They're going to have to figure something out post Khris and Jrue, at least as the second and third guy. So this is a year I think I'm really going to enjoy those three, and I do think they're just going to absolutely clobber teams, and I can't wait.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Not surprising, me, but Brooke.
Oh yeah, again,
we're
9 games.
We're a lot closer to the inflection point there, and the Bucks are no closer to working out how any of that will look when he's gone. And the reality is they're not in a position where they'll ever be able to do it, probably until he's gone. And I'd be like, yeah, better find out what we're going to do at center, and maybe that leads to reinvention. But I don't want to downplay it. Maybe it is that Khris is out. I do feel like injuries are going to come across the course of the season. If they can keep Jrue healthy, if they can keep Giannis healthy, and they keep Brooke healthy, I think this team can roll with a lot of punches. And I do. Obviously, Giannis goes without saying, but I think Jrue and Brooke in particular, they feel like the areas we're in an unfortunate spot right now where wing depth is absolutely eviscerated all at once. But I do think generally they're going to survive a Khris injury a little bit easier, in part because they've had some more practice to do it over the years, but then they would with Jrue, or then we've even seen with Brooke. So I think if we could get Jrue and Giannis and Brooke healthy all season, if Bobby can be healthy, and then hopefully Khris comes back and it's not something there again, that's all kind of really good signs. But it will be interesting to see, one, the evolution of their defense, which I'm sure we'll get to, and we'll touch on some of the changes. But two, also just what's still there, what's there of the core defense and how they can lock in. And more than anyone, the Bucks defense is those three guys. So that's another element. And hopefully we'll see, the big three plus Brooke on the court a lot together. And we'll get to enjoy a lot of that and have one more really great playoff run at least with that group.
So I think there's a bunch of ways we could go right now. Rohan, you were perking up. What's on your mind? Because now we're into preview mode, right? Let's talk about the 22-23 Bucks.
So I think it's probably makes sense to talk about the wing depth, because initially, I know we've had a lot of conversations since then, but when I said it's concerning about Pat Connaughton's injury, I was mostly talking about the wing depth for the first couple weeks of the season, but everything else still stands true. So obviously Joe Ingles out, Khris Middleton out, now Pat Connaughton out. Who's starting for this team? Can we decide that? Can we talk about that? Who's starting?
Opening night starter?
We're going jumbo.
We're going jumbo. So obviously we have Jrue, we have Giannis, we have Brooke.
So Jrue, Grayson, Giannis, Bobby, Brooke, I think will be opening night starters.
No Wes?
Wes only resumed. He resumed 5-5 today, so he is full go. But I will be surprised if he starts, having just come back.
I think they might to give him Harden, which is welcome back. But I think Jrue on Maxey, Wes on Harden, Giannis on PJ roaming if they start him, which I assume they. I guess I don't know exactly. Is it going to be PJ and Tobias at the 3-4 and then
I'd
Embiid?
assume so.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah. So then, Philly's starting lineup does pose some difficulties. Whether it's Bobby, I guess honestly maybe split the difference. You kind of have to start Grayson, right? There's just nowhere you really feel good about stashing him against the Sixers. Maybe you have to put Giannis on Tobias then, and can you put Grayson on PJ Tucker?
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, you're going to lose some offensive boards that way.
I don't know if we're going to see PJ. I don't know if you guys saw his quotes yesterday saying his knee's not there yet after surgery. So,
well, that could, if it's like Matisse Thybulle.
He certainly said he's not 100%. So if we do see PJ, well then put the Sixers in with the Rockets in terms of how they treat PJ.
It's literally, they literally took the org from Houston and moved it to Philly. So I think that's fair to do.
Yeah, it's a fair statement.
But I think
to quote PJ said, just every week, try to get better, get stronger. It's not 100% yet, but it's a working progression to get there. The training staff has been helping me a lot. Like that was on Sunday.
A notorious Sixers training staff.
Best wishes to PJ Tucker. But I think here's a question outside of just opening night. Do we think, especially in this early part with Khris out and maybe Wes getting back a little bit and Pat out, do they go more matchup based with the starters than maybe we're used to, or are they just going to pick a 5 and roll with it until guys are back healthy? Because I do think, I think Grayson and Wes make sense for a lot of teams, but there are some teams where I would probably say Bobby out there for the offense and really just going huge. I kind of like that look as well. I don't know which way I'm leaning on that yet.
I think I don't think they're gonna go matchup dependent this early. I think they're just gonna go with a 5 and then stick with that. Like
I don't mind occasionally. Like there might be some games where it's just so obvious that you have to go smaller. For example, if they do decide that their 5 with Khris out is trending on the big side, well, yeah, maybe there are some games where you just can't do that.
Start Surge.
Oh, yeah. But generally, like my take on that is like, particularly where the Bucks are, like, be the alpha. Like, pick your 5 and go and dictate the terms with your best lineup. So, what do you feel is the best lineup? Well, no problem if they feel like that changes on occasions, but I would like to see them settle on something. Because even when Khris is back, I mean, Khris is not a Pat situation either, where Pat kind of had full preseason and then it's the tail end of it we're dealing with the injury. It's a while since Khris has played now. I know he's been able to do some work, but that is still very different from the level of intensity he's going to be dropped into. So that's something too that maybe you want to just have a little bit extra comfort because you might be going with that 5 even for a little while as Khris works his way back, at least for heavier minutes.
I also think too, like, this is the time that if you see anything, if you want to build up confidence for guys like Jordan Nwora, I know this is year 3, so it's not necessarily like, a diamond in the rough or anything like that, but like Marjan, this is when he's probably going to see the most of his minutes this season.
Yeah. I wanted to get into this young wing combo. I'm glad you're bringing this here.
The other thing too, here's a stat. I was doing this mid-pod. 88% of the Bucks minutes from last year returned this year. But you're already like again, what looked to be like their most well-stocked part of the roster is already down 3-4 guys, right? Between Khris, Pat, Ingles, Wes has his, it's looking up, but still he's bothered by something. I think this is just where, like, if you're going to ease into it and still, you obviously want to not just get into a hole very early like they did last year, and then it was kind of like playing catch up mode the whole year. But I think this is where, if you see anything from the types of players like Marjan, Jordan Nwora, Javon Carter, obviously, like, he didn't play all that many minutes, but it was still like, oh, this guy, there is something there with him. After they picked him up when he got waived by the Nets, like, this is a different way to to kind of, I don't know, build your rotation, build your lineup in the way that you can experiment that is still pretty new to the Bucks rather than just, how it was before. But I don't know. I that's where I think it's going to be. I probably lean towards where Adam was talking about with Bud is that he's going to see the longer picture rather than like, okay, let's go into this game matchup dependent and see, we're playing the Sixers opening night or we're playing Brooklyn week into the year or into the season, stuff like that. But like, I don't know. He always holds his cards close to the vest. So I don't see him revealing too soon or all of them too soon.
That's a great call. I want to dive into just the young wing stuff totally because I do think it's, especially in the first third-ish of the season, it's going to be a major storyline, and it's one that really could have repercussions down the line too, much farther than this. But just to the starters, after thinking about it some more, probably overthinking. It's probably Drew, Grayson, Bobby, Giannis, whatever order, and Brook Lopez. I mean, those were the guys last year who got tabbed to start the most.
I think it's West.
I'm just not sure. I think West.
I think they go back to Grayson.
I think they need. I think skill set wise. I think skills. Oh, you're saying instead of Bobby, Rohan?
Yeah.
Oh. The only reason I don't think so on that is because I think you're so thin on wing depth that you almost can't play both of those guys together. You need to spare someone. Unless your minutes are going to be managed much more diligently than I think Bud is going to be interested in doing, like to start a season.
I don't know. It gets tough. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Jumbo Bucks. Don't get me wrong. I want them to go Jumbo. Just be weird at all times. I like it.
This isn't Jumbo enough, really. Khris at the 2 is true Jumbo stuff.
That is true. But if you look back to what they've been doing with these Jumbo lineups recently, they don't use it a ton. I feel like it's been something Bud's been a little averse to. So I would wonder. Against.
I mean,
does having Serge change that? Because it was like their only two bigs for a lot. I mean, seriously, they look at Serge as a playable backup big. When they played all the bigs before, they didn't have anyone. I mean, they had Serge.
That's fair, but you're also playing like Giannis at 3.
Yeah.
Serge is in a category
Serge
that a few books are in for me. He is hilarious. Great guy.
Grammy award-winning Serge Ibaka.
Did you guys see Giannis? Giannis is going on. How hungry are you?
How hungry? I'm so excited.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Am I excited to watch Serge play basketball this season? Not really. I need to see that he can do it. I don't think he can. He looked washed. It could well be a case that he's healthy, but again, we're dealing with guys that are very much the final stretch of their career. Like he is just in the exact same spot as George Hill, but just with a lot less spotlight on it. Because when the Bucks are healthy, there's more of a cushion there than there is with guard depth. But I think they're in a very similar spot where it's like they start the season really bad. You're like, yeah, they're done. Like, and that's very, very possible. But I don't know if Serge is there. And to your point, Ron, like I don't think none of this is ideal. I don't think it's like Bud will be like, yeah, I love Jumbo Bucks. Let's go Jumbo Bucks. I think it's more like, this is what makes sense to me. Like,
I think he's felt more comfortable playing like sizing up Javon and George Hill though, which sort of alleviates that concern a little bit.
I kind of think George is going to be a 2-3 this season, more than a 1.
Yeah, I think George is going to be more of a wing.
Especially early. That's how they played him in preseason, that's for sure. That was one of our biggest takeaways from preseason was they played Javon at the 1 with the backup unit, and George was almost entirely off ball, which I think is a much better use of both players with the way they both played.
That was when he was at his best, arguably. That's when he really popped in that Celtics / playoff run. He was playing with obviously Giannis and Khris and occasionally Eric Bledsoe. But he's never been the kind of de facto point guard or true point guard. He has to have. It's just another. It's what is it? Dribble, pass, shoot. Everybody dribble, pass, shoot, or whatever.
Yeah.
So the only Jumbo Bucks lineup that I will recognize, it has to include Salmon. That's what it would be. He would be like point
Mamu.
So let's
point.
I am
forward slash
too,
center
right?
slash wing.
So let's talk about, because I think when we talk about the young wings, and this is I think the most interesting part of the early season Bucks is one, how do they get through all the wing injuries, and even just assuming Wes plays, but like I think even healthy, like 24 minutes most nights, right? Like he's not going to be out there logging 35 minutes a game. We know Bud, we know the Bucks. Wes may want to, based on the fervor of his IG workouts. I don't think the Bucks are going to let him do that. So there's going to be a ton of role early for Jordan Nwora, Marjon Beauchamp, and I put Sandman in that group of like bench wings. And I think, his position has been such a discussion because college, like more of a 4-5, NBA, I just don't see 5. I think it's just not. I think 4, and then can you figure out how to make him a 3-4 in some lineups is going to have to be the convo with him. And I don't know. I think it's going to be like some matchups. I think he's going to struggle. I think some, maybe it's okay. Like if you can hide him on a PJ Tucker, doesn't really matter what position you call him, but you don't see one of those.
Lowry Markkanen?
Yeah. I guess Lowry did play a lot of 3 last season. Cavs are going to miss him in that sense. But I think Mamu may give you the best overall offensive skill set of any of those 3 players, and I hope he does get a shot. I think Beauchamp has the highest upside because if he's hitting threes and defending the way we've seen him defend, that's just an NBA wing, and that's amazing if that's that. Preseason offense was very much a mixed bag. Nwora,
Wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think where I would say how I would categorize that is Marjon has like the highest utility upside in that sense of like a true.
Yeah.
Because I know we're talking about.
Are you drinking Nwora Kool-Aid here?
No. I was
talking about the.
Okay.
Mamu's gonna revolutionize.
If we're talking about
basketball.
a 6'11" guy who can play a 3 credibly,
I don't think he can, Jordan.
No,
I don't think he can either.
He can play no position, which means basketball is going to have to evolve to meet Mamu. This is how it's going to have to happen.
The thing with Mamu,
this
to clarify
is the gamble
my point,
that they've made.
Before I head back to you, Jordan, I don't think he's ever going to be, Al Farouk Aminu or whatever defensively. I think offensively, his skill set is fine.
I love that poll.
That is such a poll. What was so
a good wing defender? What?
It is a good wing defender.
I guess Pat Connaughton is much closer there, but whatever.
I don't think him and Mamu will ever be in the same sentence again.
This is why people tune in.
That's an amazing call.
This is why people tune in. But I don't think he'll ever be Al Farouk Aminu defensively. My thing with Mamu is call him whatever position you want on offense. Like he can, as you said earlier, Jordan, pass, dribble, shoot. Like he does so much stuff well that I think he fits fine just orbiting around Giannis, as everyone on the Bucks has to do. I have no concern. I think he fits in okay. It's all about defense. Like who can he guard? If he's out there with Giannis and Brook, is Giannis then the 3? Or it's probably just, whoever's slower, right? I don't know. It's very weird, but I do like his offensive skill set right now. I just think is more consistently good. Nwora's touch and shooting is incredible. There's just the pieces are not put together. Like Bud is not placing the last piece there yet. I think there's a lot of pieces left. If Bud does do that, if Bud can do that, that coach of the year should be locked up, but they won't give it to him for that. But yeah, that's my Mamu thing. I don't see him as Al Farouk Aminu. All this to say.
I think Mamu. This is a thought. This is a little off topic, right? I've had this thought for a while now. I think the Adam Sandler movie Hustle would have been much, much better if it was actually centered around Mamu. Because then I believe the hype.
Of course.
Sandler goes to Georgia, he finds a guy who plays like this. Everyone would be like, what the hell?
I mean,
and then he'd change the game. I'd get it. It would be more plausible.
In Sandler's defense, Juancho did just win Eurobasket.
Sure.
So he did. He picked a good player, I think, given the choices he probably had. But that would have been. He should just remake that movie with every random international player who's big.
He definitely shouldn't.
I'd watch it every time.
See all those guys act.
The Boban? Boban?
Oh, watch Boban.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm there for Boban.
I still have not seen this movie.
But Bielitsa?
You haven't seen Hustle?
I'm a busy
Things
man.
are bad when Rohan is like, you haven't seen movie X?
Even I've seen Hustle.
I think I should just leave this podcast. And I've just been
At least you're not Ty, who hasn't seen the Batman.
Never
Okay.
will. Let's move on. What young wings? Somebody talk about young wings.
Jordan Moore. This is Jordan Moore's spot to start the season. I hate to disappoint everyone. I hate to give the boring answer. It's his spot. It should be his spot, not based on ability, but based on, for whatever reason that's personally, it's confounding to me. They decided that they needed to bring Jordan Moore back. And now, almost as if the seas have parted to just create this opportunity for Jordan Moore to play. Here we are. So it's like, oh, you saw this guy as valuable enough to return for some reason? He, Marjan, whatever Marjan will become, you can't expect anything of him right now. Like, if he plays, realistically, it's going to be ugly, and that's okay. That's part of kind of feeling your way into life in the NBA, learning how it goes. And if he's a really good player, even in year 2, that will come in part, likely from some struggles in year 1. But I think this is Jordan Moore a time. And what's crucial with that, and you talk about, if Bud can unlock that, Jordan Moore has all the offensive skills he needs. He has all the offensive skills the Bucks need right now with Khris Middleton down. The problem is he has shown no ability to maintain focus defensively. And on the offensive end, the basketball IQ hasn't matched up with the team he's playing for and the situation they're in and the guys around him. And if either of those things have figured out for him, and honestly, he probably just needs to figure out the offensive side of it and just never be a good defender. But everyone will live with that because he's going to go and get you 16, 17, 18 points pretty comfortably. And everyone's like, cool. Let's just let him go get buckets and we'll cover the rest of it. That's a player that I understand why they have him, and they'd have him really for a situation exactly like this one. But we have not seen him with the Bucks show that ability, show the self-awareness that you put him out there and it doesn't just become Jordan Moore a time in the worst possible way. So I think he is going to get the opportunity. I don't know if that's going to be really boring to people, excite people. You don't bring him back, though, and be like, oh, all of the minutes are available in the wing at the moment, and we're playing Marjan and Mamu over you. It's got to be Jordan Moore who's getting the minutes. And we're going to learn a whole lot. Or maybe we'll learn absolutely nothing more than we already knew, and we'll be left kind of being like, why did the Bucks do that? Why didn't they explore their options? But I do think that's where I'm at on it. I love the idea of Sandman just being unleashed, becoming a true force. I've loved him since the day they drafted him, mostly because he's weird, and it just seems like there's no plausible way that he'll ever work out in the NBA because he is just... He's too pure for this world.
Stop.
He's too pure for this world, Jordan.
No.
Bigger, better things await him. But I think we're looking at some very significant and meaningful Jordan Moore minutes, and it'll then be a question of, okay, 3rd year in the league. Have you matured? Have you learned anything? Have you got smarter? Have you got better feel for the game? And if the answer to all those questions is no, well then those other 2 guys are going to have to get some opportunities pretty quickly. And the Bucks are going to be in a very tough spot until Khris and Pat are back.
I'm obviously very pro Beauchamp. I'd like to see him get some minutes, like you mentioned, to Adam and Ty. It's going to be ugly to start. I like it. It's better than Large Marge, whatever the heck that is.
Large Marge is...
how dare you?
His official name.
Bad. It's so bad. But it's just... I want to see him get some minutes. I mean, it's probably not the most ideal time, but this is probably the best opportunity. You got to dip your toe in. You got to get some minutes under his belt. Then he can continue working on stuff, whether that's in garbage time or whatever. If he manages to carve out some few minutes, or is with the herd, who knows what it's going to be like. But I want to see him get an opportunity to get some minutes, and he will. He'll have a chance at the beginning of the season. Not everyone's going to be playing 30 minutes ahead of him. There's going to be some opportunities. It's just, what's his spot going to be in the rotation? Let's predict the wing rotation a little bit here as we.
Can I just say one thing? You're going to like
course.
this because it's on Marjan before we move on. The one thing I am very interested and curious with him, he seems to in particular have been doing a lot of work with Damari Carroll this offseason. And I think the Junkyard Dog profile fits perfectly as to what the Bucks may view him as, and really what but helped to turn Damari into, that's just something I'll be keeping an eye on. If that's kind of even maybe part of the, the thought process that went into adding Damari to the staff is, okay, we have a wing who's definitely got good defensive tools, very raw offensive. He doesn't really have the shot there. Like, that kind of describes first, second year Damari Carroll in the NBA. And then he unlocked and he became a player who made a lot of money and was really good on good teams for a long time. So I think that relationship, and whether that becomes a kind of true mentor and student relationship, I'm like, from everything we know about MarJon's character, it seems like he'll soak all of that up. That will be interesting to see. Maybe there's something there. Maybe something gets unlocked a little bit sooner because the Bucks have the exact right person in his ear.
Yeah, Ty and I have talked about. Sorry, Jordan. Ty and I have talked about it a little bit before about how there's just the perfect cast of wings for MarJon, or cast of players for MarJon to learn from. Like, it may seem apocryphal to say like, oh, that's the reason why they did it, but it's hard to deny that it might be a result.
No, I was gonna say I don't think that's something that should be. I agree with Adam, and it shouldn't be undermined, or I don't know.
Overlooked.
It shouldn't be overlooked.
Overlooked. Yeah. There we go. Thank you. I don't know the English language, but like there was the specific things that we saw when Darvin was there, and how much credit went to him about developing the bigs. I mean, that was a big thing with when Brooke got there, and obviously the whole staff in general. But like, carried on to Bobby. Even with, I mean, Rolo wasn't like a standout performer, but like the fact that it was, okay, we're going to have you shoot threes. That's not part of your arsenal. We're going to have you stay in the corners and kind of, relearn or rework your game a little bit. And yeah, there's mixed results, but it was still, that was part of why they got him, that they weren't just going to make him, a hook shot extraordinaire. Even John Henson, I mean, like there was a through line in everything that they did with their bigs and who they kind of prioritize at free agency, whether it was someone as big as Brooke in their plans, or someone like Rolo, or even Serge when they made the trade for him and brought him back. Like, I do think now that Darvin is gone, the staff has changed. Charles Lee's gonna have a bigger voice. Patrick St. Andrews, presumably the same thing with him. Bring in Damari Carroll, a guy that played under Bud and knows exactly what he wants. And just where this team is, and making, again, this is their first round pick in a few years, almost 5 years. That's not insignificant to me. And yeah, is it going to pay off? Is MarJon going to play more than 500 minutes in the NBA this year? It's kind of, even when I know Dante's rookie season was limited by injury throughout pretty much all of it, like, I still think they're going to have the trading wheels on him, and they don't want to give him so much too soon, because he went so long without playing like organized basketball, or I guess basketball that counted.
Organized high-level basketball.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And he has such a unique development trajectory that it is very, you don't want to kind of like, okay, we're going to go all the way the other way. And it's so built on trying to build up his confidence and all that stuff. I would love to see MarJon play so many games this year, whether it's with the Bucks, whether it's with the Herd, whether he's, basically a point guard, and I want to see him do so many different things. But I don't know. I think they have I am very optimistic on what they see of him, and how they have their staff around him to really make him a good contributor over the long run.
Yeah. And on the Damari front, just add Jordan Moore and Grayson Allen too. Like, Grayson Allen is not a rookie or anything close to that, but when you look at what they've invested in him, and still looking at their roster and mapping it forward, what they would like to get out of him and make him into, Damari Carroll is a guy who makes a lot of sense to come in and help him round out some of those holes in his game. Likewise, and maybe in a more pronounced way for Jordan Moore, like, maybe that's part of their thinking in bringing him back, even is they feel like, okay, if we can just get the right kind of coaching, the right guidance, if we can find someone to get through to him, there is a player there. Like, if that factors into it, I feel it's something we've seen, and honestly, it's something that Bud has done and predates that, and honestly, it's a Spurs thing of where there's key areas on your roster where it's like, okay, this is obviously our development focus right now. We've got a hub of players we're looking to kind of bring to the fore, solidify their role, and we're going to have someone really specialized into work there. There have been those figures on Bud's staff all throughout. I'm struggling to think of someone really notable who was working with wings, though. Whether it's in Atlanta or whether it's been in Milwaukee, it always feels like guards and bigs. And I don't think it's a coincidence that a notable, an all-star wing even. Was he an all-star?
No, I think he was
the player of the month.
He was the one. He was the one snub. He was the one snub. But he was a player of the month. That they bring him in at a point.
By the way,
listen, you weren't there, man. You weren't there.
It was just like thinking back. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah,
them doing
I can
like
imagine. I was there. I was a Hawks fan.
No,
let's not.
I understand that.
Let's not, because we're gonna get into the Brandon Knight, Kyle Korver thing. Adam and I are gonna have a fist fight.
No, I have no interest. That's not a conversation.
Let's trap into that.
Like the entire Kings, not Kings is a bad example. Like the entire.
Actually, you know what? I would no. If there's a team that would be able to do it, it's the Kings. Like if the
entire Kings starting lineup is the player.
If they are like 30-14 at the All-Star break, they're gonna have Kevin Huerter on 3 All-Star selections. It's gonna be crazy. Vivek is gonna get an All-Star selection.
No, the trash robot outside is gonna get an All-Star nom. I have a Jordan Wara stat that I feel like sums up. Do you guys remember Nightbot? Oh, it wasn't a trash bot. It was a guard. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the guard.
Yeah, they had a robot. So it looked ridiculous. Jordan Wara stat. So he has shot 37% from 3 over 2 NBA seasons, much better in half the games and like a third of the minutes in year 1 than year 2. But this is a trend that's held in both seasons, individually and overall. 37% overall. 33.7% on catch and shoot threes. And it just reinforces the narrative. I mean, true narrative. He just doesn't fit into an offense. Like he shoots ridiculous. I mean, that's considering it's 3.5 points lower. That means the unassisted number has to be considered like 40+% from 3. He's much better off the dribble. That's just not the shot you need if you're the Bucks. You don't need Jordan Wara dribbling into stuff. You need him moving around, orbiting, getting into the dunker spot, shooting corner threes, and that just has not been there consistently for him.
Do you have the distribution numbers there? What like percentage of his trees are actually catch and shoot?
So
that'd be a lot. Then it's bringing that number down.
202 total were catch and shoot, and he has taken 289 threes. So most of them.
Oh,
that's
actually surprising.
70%.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's nearly more than 2/3, probably. Nearly more than 2/3.
Also, Nightman looks ridiculous. I just looked it up. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just love that we have gone like, what is Jordan Wara? And I know we make this joke every time.
I know.
It's like,
I was thinking this.
Giannis exists on this team. I think that's part of why I'll admit, since backing away from blogging, I've become more of a bigger picture Bucks fan than like they cut name 2-way player after 5 days, that kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, because it's Giannis is on this team. What are you doing with yourself? Giannis is on this team. And
if you're talking about me being upset about Lindell getting cut, I will fight you.
We're all upset.
I know. I'm not judging. Not judging. I'm just saying they've also done that a lot in their history too. You could name like 5 different 2-way players of like
they just ripped the Band-Aid off there, because if they hadn't cut Lindell now, they'd get rid of him really soon, and then you'd be like, oh god, why is he gone now? What's going on? So they may have done you a favor.
Trayvon Duval is 2 years away from being 2 years away. I think we should dive into
excited about Trayvon Duval.
No, we should talk about Giannis. So I think
we could do 15 on Trayvon Duval if you want.
And one time he said he wanted to ask me the questions at a Herd Media event, and he didn't really have anything for me.
I'm not surprised. It's easy to say it, and you're
that was also
am I going to ask this guy?
The worst Herd team.
Yeah, the end of the Jordan Brady era. Storied all-time leader and Herd head coach wins until Chase Buford, also the only one. But
it's all right. I got the joke though.
Yeah. Giannis. So I think we do this because he is so consistently great. But the conversation a lot of people like to have, I think it's a good one, is what's going to be the improvement this year? Because every year something is better. At a certain point, I mean, there's only so many things you can add. And there's been a fascination with his three-point shot for so long. I just still don't think it's that. I think it's more mid-range, and I know we're not allowed to talk about it. Between Eurobasket and the preseason, free throws have gone in at a pretty good clip, which is just like the most boring improvement, but maybe the most meaningful that he could possibly make.
I mean, it was mostly like we've seen him make that. It's gone past the point of being something that I'm really stressed about, which is good to begin with. And it's not shocking when he has a spell where you're like, oh, he's making free throws. So I'm kind of resigned that there will be ups and downs, but I do think the past 2 years, we've obviously seen a trend in the right way, particularly at very important times. I don't need to say any more on that. But yeah, that is the key to it. The reason we're not talking about him, let's be honest, it's because, like, what are we going to talk about? Is points of improvements. It's like, there's not a whole lot of ways. It's beyond, like, oh, is he going to shoot 80% from the free throw line? Is he going to make, like, and also, I just can't do what if Giannis starts making trees? I feel like that's been something I've had to do a million times in my life and had to hear people talk about.
It's over if he started to hit threes.
I think the reality with Giannis too is he's so special that he surprises us. When he improves, it's often something you don't see coming. It could just be a move that he's completely mastered that out of nowhere you're like, oh, okay, that's something he does now. And he'll do it over and over and over again. You're like, oh, he doesn't just do it. He's got that down entirely. It's automatic for him. So I have no doubt he will be back better than ever. But it's kind of like, over to you, Giannis. Show us how you're better than ever, and he'll do it. Like, part of that is I don't know if that's taking him for granted in the way we usually do. That's just the standard he set for himself. And again, that's maybe the equivalent of mapping on what we said about kind of national media coverage with the Bucks, where it's like, yeah, everyone says, oh yeah, the Bucks probably win a championship. But let's talk about all these other teams. It's because that's what you can bank on. That's what you expect to be there. And that's what you don't have to go into the ins and outs of, but what if this happens? What if that? Giannis is going to be great. Like, if Giannis is healthy, Giannis is great. It's as simple as that at this point. And I don't know, maybe we should embrace that we don't have to talk about him that much, because there are lots of teams that, like, they have legit number one stars, but they have to talk about them for one reason or another. Whether it's, where they're allowed to travel to or play in times of recent years, or it's their attitude, or it's, contract situation, trade.
Are they going to request a trade? Yeah.
Whatever it might be. We just don't have to do any of it. So that's why we forget him. I think that's, in a lot of ways, it's just another reason to celebrate Giannis, is the fact that we don't have to talk about him all the time, particularly until games start happening. And then games happen, he does incredible things, and that's when he kind of grabs center stage.
I mean, I understand this logic.
What have you got? Come on, let me hear. I'm open.
We gotta talk about Giannis.
We gotta talk about, because
yeah, again, sure. What have you got? I've gotten the guy's great. That's kind of where I'm at.
Not good enough.
I think we have very much established the Bucks are the anti-ESPN popular NBA team, or whatever you want to call
ESPN. GSPN.
GSPN, yeah,
they're
right?
not anti-GSPN. Real quick, they literally they did what they wanted to do. They're the new Spurs. Like, I remember this is like every year before. Tim Duncan and the Spurs are great. They're going to roll off a bunch of wins. Let's talk about Kobe. Like, that's they've done it. They did it. Mission accomplished.
And I very much enjoy it because it's not. You don't. Nothing.
It's your
really,
personality too, Jordan.
Yes, exactly. Nothing really good comes from having your team be talked about on the whatever. What is it called? NBA Today
NBA
now.
Today.
I
like NBA Today actually.
Oh, it's fine. It's a fine program over there at Bristol. But I'm just saying,
it's way better than the Jump.
If your team is being talked about a lot, it doesn't usually mean it's going to be good things necessarily. So the Bucks had found a way, despite having what people regard as the best player in the league, not be talked about in a way. And as Adam mentioned, a lot of people predicting that the Bucks will win an NBA title, which is the reason why things exist in the NBA.
No,
and
I
why
think
people play.
I thought it was retweets.
Oh.
I thought we did it for retweets.
That is in clout. Clout, I've heard is.
Tyler's just speaking for himself here.
To demonstrate bag size, sack dimensions.
Whoa!
It's just a synonym.
Yes, I just think we are approaching. This is year 10 for Giannis.
That's crazy,
and it is crazy, and Adam is perfectly everything that Adam said about Giannis, and the fact that we don't have to mention him or talk about him like incessantly, because he has nearly mastered everything that he could do, and the fact that he's already been so good for so long. We're talking about. I mean, it's already been 5 years ago since he won Most Improved Player, and that seems like eons ago. And it very well is, because things have changed a lot since then. It's just a very unique position that we are in, and again, to see someone that is the best player in the league, one of the best players in the league, I'll go definitively and say the best player in the league, and
I'll take Treske still out here.
Yeah. I don't know what that was. I don't know. It's a very unique position.
We're saying the same thing, Jordan. We're saying the same thing.
I know. It's just a different shade of just like
50 Shades of Giannis.
50 Shades of Giannis, yeah.
More movies I would watch.
Come next Thursday or Friday, we're talking about Giannis.
Oh, absolutely.
A tie, and I forget sometimes too.
I know. I've been there. I am, but maybe this season collectively as a goal, we can make that the focus. But that is when he comes to the fore. I do think it's natural in this kind of conversation we're having. Yes, the Bucks season hinges on Giannis more than anything else we're talking about. But it hinges on him because he is so good at everything, because he's been the picture consistency, because he's the player they can rely on in countless ways. So you kind of have to take what we've seen, as Jordan says, year 10, and be like, okay, we know who Giannis is. If they're to get here, it's about a lot of the guys. We haven't really talked in detail about Drew or Brooke either, because again, it's not
Bobby.
Or Bobby even. It's not about those guys. It's about the question marks, particularly to start this season, just the way circumstances thrown some challenges the Bucks' way. So I think that's natural. In terms of, I think the Bucks go at this thing harder this year. I think Giannis does too. Does that mean he's going to win an MVP again? Does it mean that he's going to go and get a scoring title, which is something he's been getting closer to without even trying?
Pretty damn close last year.
Yeah, it's not something he has to be mindful of, and he's right there. So maybe this is the year where that's just going to happen for him. And honestly, that's the last thing missing on his resume at this point too, awards wise. I don't know, maybe there's some of the questions. Is the time where he just what does a Giannis MVP season look like at this point, when everyone has already decided he's the best player in the league, where he's been brilliant the last 2 seasons and he still hasn't been MVP or really close to it in terms of how voting is played out. So what does it look like for Giannis to get back there? Is it possible? Maybe there's some of the questions, but again, there are questions about this guy is unbelievably good. So what awards is he going to win this year, or what statistical achievements can he go and get?
He could actually. This might help his MVP narrative. He is 0.1 per game away in 2 different stats from a really cool stat line he's never done before. Plus, you could throw in the scoring title if that happens as well. He's never scored 30 points. He's never had 6 assists per game. He's had 29.9 points and 5.9 assists. And I think especially with Khris out for a while, but a good amount of weapons still around him, 30 and 6 is in play, and that could be the kind of stupid thing. Again, 29.9, 5.9. People just love round numbers. But I could totally
Daryl
see
Morey's yelling, per 36, per 36.
Well, per 36, he's blown those away. But that is exactly the kind of stupid, on a graphic, on NBA Today. Giannis has never, and is probably the last player to do that was Iron Knee Jenkins or something. Not really. It's been done a lot, but
30 and 6? I'd
love to hear who Iron Knee Jenkins played for.
Harden's done it, I'm sure. Harden
Westbrook?
Westbrook. Harden did like 40 and 13 or something crazy like that. But 30 and 6 and a scoring title does make for a good graphic and plus, the 13, 12 probably more likely rebounds per game.
I think he does have a solid MVP case this year, though.
If I'm right about the over-under, especially.
Let's go right now.
Let's do award predictions. Rapid fire. MVP. I'm calling my shot. Giannis, 3-time MVP.
Well, I took the over, so if they win 55 games, I think he's definitely winning MVP.
I think he probably doesn't win even if they do that.
Oh, I think if
seconds Embiid for me.
I don't think. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about the
Embiid,
Sixers.
or I think the really obvious answer, and I think it's really obvious because if his team are to have a season good enough to get him in the mix,
44
he's
wins
going to get all the credit
enough.
for it. Is Luka?
No.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd.
I don't disagree. We've talked about the Mavs,
I
but I think you've got to put him right at the forefront because of one, how good he is, and two, I don't think his team or his coach is very good. So if they do find themselves in prominent position in the West, it's going to take a superhuman effort from him, and he'll get the credit for it.
The reason why Giannis won MVP when he did the first time is that the Bucks had this crazy jump that, again, very few people saw coming. I feel like all of us saw coming.
Well, not to that extent. Not to that extent.
No. But I feel like all of us in this chat now, we're like, they could be really good.
Yeah.
If for Luka to win MVP, it has to be a top 2 finish.
The Bucks won 60 that first year.
Yeah, that's the thing. We're talking 60 games after 43.
I think Luka's more likely to steal the scoring title than the MVP. I get that he's a favorite. I get why. I'm just so low on their talent getting worse and Jason Kidd and how his 10 years age with team. But we've discussed this.
It's not based on merit though, which is the dumb part of all this. I'm not saying he's not going to get the MVP because he won't be the most deserving.
Oh
player.
yeah.
We just know how this works at this point. Like it's the same way. Like Nikola Jokic, congratulations, you got your 2 MVPs. Good luck. No matter what you do, again. You're not getting another one this year. We've seen this one happen with Giannis.
I actually might like his chances. I like his chances better than Luka.
No,
because I think they have a clear path. I think they have a clear.
They won't.
Doesn't matter.
Won't happen.
Yes, it's not going to
50 points.
This happened with Giannis 2 years ago, or last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, where you saw a lot of voters say the only precedent for this is the last person to win 3 in a row is Bird. Yeah. Are you putting they're not putting Giannis in there? You're not putting Jokic in.
The Bucks were not having as good of a regular season. I think Jokic could win if the Nuggets go run off 60 wins, which I think is much more possible. I think he could have an undeniable case, which does exist. Giannis did not have an undeniable case the third straight year.
I think
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's the other thing too is that it's the playoff thing. And granted, again, you're with the Nuggets specifically, they were without their second best player and third best player, but all this criticism about is Nikola Jokic actually an MVP worthy, like this bullshit conversation that doesn't actually exist. But I don't know. I just don't see it unless if it's overwhelming. It has to
he has to lap the field.
Yeah. The team has to be number one. Mm-hmm. They have to be the best in the West.
I think all the insane shit
it
I think all the insane shit it would take is more realistic than the Mavs actually being a great team this year.
I don't disagree with that either.
But we saw Westbrook get it on a
shot
6th seed, so maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if Ja Morant does what he did last year?
And they play better when he's not playing?
He's gotta play at least 65 games though. It
depends. He's also not in that tier of player. I'm sorry, I love Ja.
Yeah, but
I agree with that. But if he has a really strong season again,
I like Tatum's chances better. I think Tatum, if they do well, if they have a really good regular season, look at what he overcame.
The narrative.
He made tacos for the whole team every Tuesday, and they pulled through, and he scored 30 or whatever. And it wouldn't shock me if he won.
I think it's Embiid.
Okay. So you say Embiid, Jordan?
I say Embiid. I have to stay consistent with my Sixers going 1
Adam?
in the East.
Let's just say Luka. I don't like the Mavs, so that doesn't work. But let's just say Luka.
Sure.
I don't believe they'll give the right player. Oh,
defensive
now
player of the year. I'm calling. Yes. I think he's the odds-on favorite. I'm calling Bam.
Yes.
I just don't care about this award at all. After they gave it to Marcus Smart, and then the coaches reaffirmed the decision. I watch different tape than people. Is what I learned.
So who's your pick then?
I don't know. Let somebody else go. I gotta think about it.
What if Marcus Smart has opened the door again?
And it's true.
Drew Holiday can have.
I don't think he'll ever get it while he's on a team with Giannis.
That is fair.
That's good.
The Bucks changing their defensive system could help him to get a little bit more credit if the Bucks go into more denial of trees or contesting trees, and if it's just a more active perimeter defense rather than funneling everything to Brook and Giannis.
Also,
that could play to Drew's. I'm not really saying Drew will win, but I'll just say Drew will win because I think that'll be fun.
I've got an answer. I've got it's Rudy Gobert. They're going to be fun and exciting, and he's going to do his thing. And look at Minnesota has a good regular season defense. Yeah, I think so. I saw the clip too of Karl Towns spinning out of control like a wonky helicopter.
Tilt-a-whirl.
But that's going to help Rudy Gobert, right? They're going to be like, look at Karl Towns spinning like Gobert did against Steph against every player in the league. It's amazing that they're the 8th defense in the league or whatever they end up.
Underrated? Just think this is a spitballing D-point candidate. Jared Allen.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I think
similar reasons. If Cleveland really pops in a way that looks like they might and very well could be,
making up for a lot of porous guard defense in front of him,
or maybe we're thinking of the wrong Cleveland big. Maybe it's Mobley.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with them. I think he will make it tough for Jared Allen because people will be like, but Mobley's right up there with him. That's why I like Gobert. You look at Minnesota's team, and I think they have Vanderbilt, right? People like him, but he's not really on the map like that.
He's out of Utah.
Oh, who'd they keep?
They got McDaniels.
Jaden
similar
McDaniels.
long-armed guy.
But do we think the pecking order has been worked out yet? Just like from a narrative sense between Mobley and Jared Allen in a Brook Giannis way. Like, who is the Brook? Because that's the guy who's not going to get the credit. I feel like the Brook could end up being Jared Allen.
It probably. I mean, if Mobley has a good offensive year, it for sure will, right? Like he's the one.
But even defensively, I do think that.
Yeah, but people don't watch defense, so I think if Mobley has a fun offensive year and he's good on defense, people will be like, "Oh yeah, Mobley, he's the engine there." Jared Allen got an all-star out of this deal. He's doing okay.
So Adam, you're picking Drew?
Sure.
He doesn't believe any of his picks.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I suggested
to
pull back the curtain. I suggested that we do this at the end of this episode. Completely forgot to prepare. Didn't look at names. Didn't give any thought.
Yeah.
So now,
welcome.
I got one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is not going to answer the question that Rohan just did. I'm doing an offshoot. Does Bud win Coach of the Year?
I don't think they're ever going to give it to him again.
No, they're
the three coaches.
He's too dominant.
The 3 coaches to have win the
Chris
NBA
Pierce
Coach
don't
of the
think he's
Year
good.
3 times. Are you ready?
Sure.
Greg Popovich,
That one makes sense.
Donnie Nelson,
Ooh.
Don Nelson, sorry, that's his son. And Pat Riley.
You know what's crazy?
Spo's
Eric
never
won. Never
Spo's
won.
never won.
Yeah, I wonder if
This
he
might be
gets
the
it this
year.
year. But
This
everyone
might be
says
the
that
year.
every year, though.
No.
This is not going to be the year.
If they're good, but that's exactly why it would be the year. That's how these work.
But if,
They're running
it
out of
won't be.
gas, and he won 51 games.
don't worry, they're not going to be good.
We argued about this in a previous podcast, folks.
What's the threshold?
I think Nick Nurse is going to win Coach of the Year.
No.
Oh, that's a good call.
No, I think
That's
people
a
are
good
bored
call.
of him. Hopefully. His stupid hats.
I think we're just bored of it.
Who couldn't be?
Gotta take
Ty,
the
what's
guitar
your
out.
pick, Ty?
Finch.
I'm
I'll stick
I'm
with the
going
Wolves.
Spoelstra.
God, you've gone full Jordan here.
Me?
Yeah, did Jordan get to you with all his Wolves hype?
I was
Yeah.
high on the Wolves too. I just wasn't as high as Jordan.
It could be that I'm not going to spoil
Oh,
it.
actually, I might like Malone more after my Nuggets hype earlier.
So make a pick, Ty.
Mike Brown.
I said Finch.
Mike Brown, yeah.
No, I said
Okay.
Finch.
No, Jordan's saying Mike Brown.
Yeah, I know. I said no.
Jordan, are
Just
you
throwing it out
allowed to not say Finch?
I don't think I am contractually.
No, he's gonna say Carlisle.
Oh,
They're gonna
right.
double. They're gonna double their over under by March.
He's going to win Coach of the Year without going to the playoffs. The only
Actually,
coach.
no. My pick's Dwayne Casey.
Dwayne Casey, I was going to say.
Oh God.
But I'm holding that for when we get there.
Okay. Sixth man of the year.
that's not when we get there.
I know, but just got to get through him.
Do we?
We're already halfway, Ty.
Yeah, we got to finish this.
Did the good
6th man of the
ones.
year.
Bobby
Who's really
Portis.
good at
He's
He
going to
wants to
start
do
too
it.
many games
He
again.
wants to do it.
Jordan Poole, Norman
Karis
Powell,
LeVert?
Karis LeVert, maybe.
No, Norman Powell, actually, that's a really good one. I like that one.
Could be important.
Robin
But he
Lopez.
might, but problem though, Norman Powell might start too many games if the Clippers
He might,
sit
yeah.
as.
I'm seeing
Tyler
Malcolm
Hero's gonna
Brogdon
be a
here.
starter.
Is Brogdon not going to start?
not
No, he's
not
not.
initially.
Okay, I'll take Brogdon then.
Brogdon's a solid
I know it requires him to be
I was
healthy.
gonna
but
say.
It also requires him to score at least 20 points a game.
Not
Which is-
necessarily 20, because Tyler
This is
Hero
what this award is, though.
We've moved a little bit past that.
Right?
though. The Lou
I mean,
Williams era.
Tyler Hero just
The
averaged
Lou
20
Williams,
a game
Jamal
and whatever.
Crawford reign of terror is over, Jordan.
But now,
Yeah, but Tyler,
I mean, that's
Tyler
the new
Hero's
one. That's
rate of
him
terror
now.
has just begun.
yeah, and Clarkson split it with Ingles like 2 years ago. He's pretty much that
That's
guy
right.
too.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Poole. Probably go with him.
Jordan
He's gonna
Clarkson
score a lot of
on
points.
wherever he ends up.
Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean Jordan Poole and Hero are obviously the good bets.
Hero's going to start, I think.
Oh, then maybe not.
You get plus 8,000 on Joe Ingles.
Does Desmond Bain start?
I can't believe Ingles is listed.
Okay.
That's the same odds as Derrick Rose.
I got it. Are you
Easy.
ready? Are you ready?
Oh boy.
You can't even get it out.
Oh, is he gonna say?
Russell Westbrook.
Oh,
Russ is the 7th favorite.
Oh, wow.
Because he's a name.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Vegas
Money-
is just
money's coming
collecting
in on the
money.
name.
They're just collecting
Yeah.
money on that.
God, that is so funny. Are we missing one?
an award?
Executive of the year? Executive of the year?
No, what was the one? Most
Rookie,
improved?
Rookie.
Most
rookie.
rookie. Keegan Murray for rookie for me.
Ooh.
Jaden Ivey.
Jaden, I like that.
Get
I like
off.
that pick.
And the Pistons are going to win
Pistons
40
trade.
games, Jordan.
I love that this
Jaden Ivey's a
segment.
good pick.
This segment is just all us confirming our priors with no other thought given.
Gotta stick to it. It's all part of the one thing for now. Like, you gotta.
I'm going to go bold. Sam Presti, because he found another
Rookie
way.
of the year?
Rookie of the year?
Yeah, because he found another way to sit one of his rookies. Play pro-am ball.
Sam Presti for Rookie of the Year is a bold pick.
They're gonna need him to suit up when they run out of players.
You're damn right. It's overdue at this point. to tank.
If not Jaden Ivey, you're going.
The Mavericks rolled out
Jalen
Tony
Duren,
Romo a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Let's do it with Sam Presti.
I think I might take the safe pick. Just go Paolo.
Yeah.
He's gonna get buckets too if he stays healthy.
Yeah, it might end up being a stats versus role on team thing if the Kings are good, but that's also a huge if.
Like last year's
Massive.
Rookie of the Race was rare. The fact that the top two guys were on teams that
We're
at
good.
least went to the plan or greater. Yeah. I don't see.
Yeah,
that's
and the
definitely
best
not
player
this
from
year.
that class was third.
Who finished third?
Cade.
Oh,
Oh.
I thought
Oh,
Jalen
yeah,
Green
yeah.
did for a second, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, whoa.
same.
Okay, that's fine.
Do
Are we doing executive of the year?
Yeah,
Did we
let's do
miss
it.
most
Why not?
improved? Was that
Oh, most
the other
improved.
one?
We did.
Most improved.
Let's do that one because I think that's okay.
Javon
God, I've got
Carter.
a pick.
You laugh. You laugh.
The
I see
ESPN
division.
yeah.
I mean, everyone wants John Wall. I just don't know what. Like, we know what John. I don't know what.
John Wall.
I don't think you should win it because you just didn't play for a year because you didn't want to come
No,
off the
not
bench.
John.
That is
Wall.
not a comeback.
How
That is
could
a vacation.
no, but that's
There's
not
a lot
improvement.
of
either, 'cause-
comeback worthy players that like you could say John Wall, Jamal Murray.
I know, but
There's
that's
a
not
lot
the
of guys
award.
coming back
That's
from
not
Yeah,
most
that's the
improved.
NFL
We don't
award.
have
That's what it was
award for that.
originally.
Well, they
It's not
changed
anymore.
I'm going with Javon. I'm all in.
Yeah, Javon, let's do it.
I love Javon. I hope he has a great season. That's insane.
I can't wait to see the comments. Ooh,
And I picked Jaden
ooh.
Ivey for Rookie of the Year.
Adam's
I'm
going to go
having a tough
Sadiq Bey for
time
this one.
looking past Tyrese Halliburton, who is the favorite. So that's pretty.
This award is stupid if he wins. Everyone likes Tyrese Halliburton.
Jordan, he can
Pacers?
improve without the Pacers.
A Pacers
being
pick?
anything good.
What? God, this is always hard.
Like the second favorite, Jordan, is Anthony Edwards. It's just, or sorry,
Who's the
tied
favorite?
with
Who's the
Halliburton.
favorite?
Halliburton and Edwards are both plus 900,
Where's Tyrese Maxey?
and Zion Williamson is plus 1400.
I actually
Zion?
thought
Tyrese Maxey is plus 1600. He's fourth favorite with RJ.
These are all bad. I mean, Maxey maybe, but they're all good. Like, what?
Maxey had such improvement last year.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
He should have won it last year.
yeah.
Who even won most improved?
Jalen Brunson's plus 1800.
Yeah,
Like,
who
how
won
can he
most-
improve?
Who won most improved last year?
Who cares?
glad
Okay.
we're doing this segment.
Executive of the year.
Okay,
Brad
executive
Stevens.
of the-
There's a
probably.
narrative there that's going to, if the Celtics have a good season and Malcolm Brogdon say does stay healthy.
John Morant won most improved last year.
Oh yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. I do care about that, to be
That's
fair.
fine.
So that's all the awards. We went through it. We did it. We got through there eventually. This has been a slog.
Are we not
but
doing
did
the
it.
whole executive?
I
We just did
gave
that.
mine, and then no one else just called it.
Ty, I assumed you didn't care that much.
Tim Connolly.
Yeah, Tim Connolly. Let's do it.
What did the Nuggets do?
Wolves.
He's on the Wolves.
Excuse me. Wow.
Wolves, yeah.
Should have known when Jordan picked them. That should have been
Kobe
your line.
Altman is it's whoever finishes best out of Nuggets, I did it too. Wolves, Celtics, Cavs. Give it against their expectations. They're
Yeah.
just going to be like, "Wow, you did a great job with that risky trade. It panned out this year."
You know what's crazy? We're not gonna see a clean sweep again like we did with the Bucks with Coach of the Year, MVP, Executive of the Year.
Mhm.
We're not gonna see that again, really.
I don't think it's gonna be a long time until we do.
We brought it back. We tied
It's not.
it back to
It's
the
not
Bucks.
impossible. I can see teams where it's possible.
Sean-
Jordan's favorite team. I do think there is a scenario. I
That
don't
is
think
true.
it would happen, but
Sean Marks is on my list for exec of the year. If they were actually good, I could see them being like, he kept the ship together. Look at that.
I don't even know if he wanted to,
Crisis
but-
expert
So
Sean
it's
Marks.
so inspiring. You know what the real biggest offseason acquisition was? Kevin Durant. That's going to be the start of an athletic piece that's
Yeah.
18,000 words long about this.
His boardroom. Yeah, we're definitely.
And on that note, let's wrap this up. This was a extensive preview. We touched a lot of different stuff. We even talked about Giannis. It was good. Made our MVP predictions, award predictions. It was good. Hopefully you all enjoy it, and hopefully you guys are going to be riding with us for the entire season, because we're going to have things covered for you for the Milwaukee Bucks on all things GSPN, Gyro Step, Win in 6, everything. We're gonna be talking Milwaukee Bucks all season long. Hopefully you're here for the ride. Looking forward to it. Season starts on Thursday. Very, very excited. We should be doing a playback for that game. We should have announced that earlier, but we didn't. We forgot. But we're doing it now.
People are definitely listening to the end.
Real listeners know, and that's all that matters.
Yes. And thank you. We appreciate that. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you're listening or watching to this. YouTube, podcast platform of choice. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Check out gspn.info for all things Gyro Step Podcast Network. Pod Random, and we will talk to you next time.